We see movies where a person's eye rolls back, their heads twist, they crawl up walls, and they vomit blood. We think that it's no big deal, it's just a movie. But there have been many cases where it happens in real life, not just the big screens. Demonic possession does exist. Demonic possession is a demon or a devil that invades one's body, taking complete control over it. So the first case I'd like to start off with is a young boy who was named Roland Doe. Roland Doe was a 14-year-old boy who was born in 1935 in Michigan and was the only child of religious parents. He had an aunt named Harriet who was very spiritual and was very close to the boy. His favorite aunt introduced him to the Ouija board and how to use it. The Ouija board is a spiritual board that allows you to connect with the spirit world. Hope it's important. The young boy tried to contact his aunt after her passing in January 1949. Shortly after this, strange things began to happen. The boy began waking up with scratches located all around his body. Religious pictures such like Jesus Christ, the Virgin Mary, the crucifix, began to shake on the walls. Footsteps were heard all around the house, and things like furniture were levitated or thrown across the room. All of these events were centered around Roland. At one point, Roland was in class when his desk began to shake and move on its own in front of his classmates. The parents of Roland took him to doctors for medical examination, but the doctors did not find anything wrong with him. They turned him to the clergyman, which is a male priest. The priest arranged a night to observe Roland in his sleep. While he was observing Roland, while he was sleeping, he heard scratches in the walls, voices in the halls, and witnessed an armchair get thrown across the room. After this, the priest was convinced that Roland was possessed and decided to start an exorcism, but was unsuccessful. The priest then called Roman Catholic priests to perform the ritual. The priest was named Edward Hughes. While the ritual was taking place, Roland escaped from the ropes that tied him to his bed, tore off one of the springs in the bed, and slashed one of the priests. The exorcism had to be delayed because stitches were needed on the priest. Roland was sent back home because the exorcism was put on hold. While at home, his family noticed that St. Louis was written across his chest in blood. After this, his family and Roland immediately rushed to St. Louis and met Reverend William S. Bowden, and this is when war began. Bowden did over 25 exorcisms within 2 months and was assisted by Walter Halloran. While performing the exorcisms, Roland spat in the eyes of the priest, talked in a deep, unnatural voice, shouting Latin words, and broke Halloran's nose while he freed from the bed and attacked them. His bed shook violently, and the words evil and hell were lacerated all over his body. After 2 months of exorcisms, the demons that had full control over his body left. Those who took part in the exorcisms of Roland Doe said that after the exorcism, he lived a normal life and remembered nothing of the possession. He is a family man now and is living around the age of 76. Another case I would like to discuss is the possession of Annalise Michel, and her story inspired the movie The Exorcism of Emily Rose. Annalise Michel was born on September 21st, 1951 in Germany. Everyone loved her, she was well respected and friends with everyone. She was a young Catholic woman who was possessed by demons. Annalise struggled with severe psychiatric disturbances from the age of 16 to her death. After years of medical treatment that was not effective, she requested an exorcism. She began to experience hallucinations while praying and heard voices that told her she was doomed. She became depressed and started considering suicide by 1973. She tore off her clothes, ate coal, and even licked up her own urine. Annalise was admitted to a psychiatric hospital where her depression deepened. She became frustrated of the medical treatment because it was not having an effect on her. In 1970, she started having seizures and was provided medication for it and did not bring any changes to her behavior. She was then prescribed the medication that is treated for those who suffer from schizophrenia and disturbed behavior. Michel was unable to walk past anything religious, including a crucifix or any religious pictures, and refused to drink out of a holy spring. Her parents and herself were convinced that she was possessed and looked for help by the church. A total of 67 exorcisms were held. 1 or 2 were performed each week and lasted up to 4 hours. She would speak in a demonic voice in ancient Latin and be very aggressive during the exorcism. Mikel said that Lucifer, Hitler, Cain, Nero, Judas, and other demons were inside of her. She consumed insects, brawled at religious icons, and sat beneath her kitchen table barking for 2 days. Throughout these exorcisms, Mikel was refusing to eat, refusing medical care, and talking about how her death would be because of other people's sins. Annalise Mikel passed away in her sleep on July 1st, 1976, weighing around 60 pounds. Her cause of death was malnutrition and dehydration due to a year of semi-starvation. An investigation was made on Annalise's death because they believed that her death could have been prevented a week before. They charged 4 defendants, Pastor Ernest Alt, Father Arnold Rand, as well as the parents. They were being charged for failing to seek medical attention for her eating disorder and her mental illness. The accused were found guilty and got 6 months of prison and 3 years of probation for not treating her mental illness. Her mental illness was schizophrenia. But as far as I could tell, schizophrenia patients don't flow. They don't speak fluent Latin, and they definitely don't speak in a deep, unnatural voice. Demonic possession has been around for centuries, and yet people still don't understand that it's a reality. Demons turn an innocent person into a monster. They take over your body, make you speak ancient language, make your body go into positions that are unnatural, and in worst cases, kill you. Roland Doe and Annalise Mikel were 2 of the many victims of demonic possession. Some have a happy ending like Roland Doe, who got to live a normal life after, and tragedy endings like Annalise Mikel, who passed away. The next time you watch a movie about demonic possession, just know that it can happen to anyone, including yourself.
All right, Carissa, why don't you tell us what you thought?
Well, I thought it was good. It was a very interesting and unique topic, so it made it really interesting to listen to. I like the 2 stories about the kids because that really supported his claim, and it gave us proof that this could happen to people. And seemed like it was researched really well, and he knew a lot of his information. He read off of his note cards, but that was because he was reading the story about the kids. So I thought that was okay. And I thought it was pretty well organized, and there were pretty interesting facts, and yeah, it was an interesting topic. It wasn't like anything that anyone else has done, so it was really interesting to listen to.
Well, I think it's an interesting topic. It's a claim of fact that this is real. The proof that you have are 2 examples that you're using, so you're making an inductive generalization here from the 2 examples. The 2 examples are vividly described, although I kind of am disagreeing a little bit with Carissa here because it does seem like you were just reading somebody else's narrative, and so it becomes like story time. You're sharing what somebody else has written about these events. By the way, the people who wrote this material or shared this information with you are never cited, so I don't know how you know any of this information about what happened, what the events were, where the chronology came from, and so the absence of citation at this point I think is very problematic. The delivery issues, I think that there are no gestures because you basically grip the cards in your hands the full time, and the only time that they come loose is when you're changing cards. Eye contact is very limited because you are reading so much. I do think you use your voice effectively, and there's a little bit of sarcasm there when you are talking about, I don't think schizophrenics speak Latin in demonic voices. I appreciated that kind of effort. I just think you needed more of that with the rest of your delivery to go along with it. The content is very limited because the only thing that you're doing is making a single inference from 2 particular cases. This would probably be acceptable as a single claim speech. As a persuasive speech, I think it's a little bit problematic. It does have some emotional content to it because of the vividness of the story, so I thought that was helpful. All right, thank you.